For the record, my name is Rachel Prusak. This is the third session I've been a chief sponsor of Safe Storage. 8 years ago, a family who resides in my district had their lives forever changed by an unlocked gun. Steve Forsyth's father, his widow, and his 2 children still live in my community. It is in their honor I am here today. Steve was murdered with a stolen firearm left unsecured in a friend's home. The Cindy Yule and Steve Forsyth Act will not only help prevent devastating mass shootings, but also the increasingly frequent tragedy of gun suicides and accidental deaths by unsecured firearms. Committee members, I'm a survivor of gun violence. Having made it through a difficult and dangerous situation, I am here to elevate the voices of those who have experienced gun violence. It is my hope that this policy will prevent others from traumatizing experiences and will save lives. The policy respects the rights of gun owners while reflecting the best research available. It is being crafted over multiple years with input from around our state from various viewpoints. And while Oregon currently has no requirements to either safely store firearms or report them if stolen, gun safety instructors, the NRA website, and firearm manufacturers all advise the securing of firearms to prevent unauthorized access to those firearms. And I'll now welcome my colleagues to present the details of the bill. Representative Sollman, Representative Reynolds, and Representative Graber. Go ahead, Representative Sollman.
Thank you, Chair Prusak, Vice Chairs Hayden and Salinas, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Janeen Sollman, the State Representative for House District 30. I come before you today in support of House Bill 2510. My passion for this issue and my commitment to its passage is driven by my utmost concern for the health and safety of Oregonians, especially our kids and those facing a mental health crisis. The instant decision made to take a life with a firearm has a 5% chance of survival. As you heard on Tuesday, unsecured firearms are a significant contributor to firearm-related deaths in Oregon, particularly suicide. This bill isn't going to strip anyone of their gun rights. It will not make it more difficult to purchase a firearm. The goal is to reduce access to firearms from people, especially children, teens, and young adults, who would use it to harm themselves, period. House Bill 2510 requires the most basic responsible practices for gun owners. The bill requires firearms to be safely stored, transferred with a safe storage device, and reported when stolen. This bill also requires that minors will be supervised when using a firearm. I want to highlight just a few key provisions that we carefully crafted to ensure gun owners will still have access to their firearms for personal protection. First, the bill requires firearms to be stored with a safe storage device when not under the control of an authorized user. This includes safes with a tamper-resistant lock, trigger, or cable locks, or a dedicated secured gun room or closet. Second, the definition of control is that of a person who is sufficiently close proximity to the firearm to prevent another person who is not an authorized person from obtaining the firearm. In short, if you can get to it before someone else, then you're in control. Additionally, the definition of control includes a provision that adults that are at home are considered in control of their firearm as long as there's no children or guests present. The very practical application of this is that if a gun owner is home alone or home with a partner, they are in control of their firearm and do not have to keep it locked. But if they have guests over or if there are kids in the home, then they need to make sure that the firearm is secured. This law would prevent those like young Dakota, who at age 11 took his life using an unsecured firearm. His instant decision was filled with pain, sadness, and sent a ripple effect across his small rural town of North Plains in my district. Parents hugged their kids longer that day when they found out. Teachers consoled broken kids that could not comprehend his decision. This isn't an urban issue or a rural issue. This isn't an issue that only impacts those experiencing poverty or the rich. Suicide by firearm is happening across Oregon. It does not discriminate. The most painful thing about this bill, and I am a second-time chief co-sponsor on this, is how long it has taken to pass and how many more lives, like Sweet Dakota, have been lost. Every Oregonian should want these protective barriers. Colleagues, I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sollman. Representative Reynolds.
Good afternoon, Chair Prusak, Vice Chairs Hayden and Salinas, and members of the House Committee on Healthcare. For the record, my name is Lisa Reynolds. I'm the State Representative for House District 36, which covers Portland's West Side. This is the fourth year I have worked to pass secure gun legislation in Oregon. It's the first time I've done it as a state legislator. It is such an important issue to me. You see, I am also a pediatrician, and the health and safety of children and adolescents is my #1 priority. It is up to us, the adults, to keep children safe. It is up to adults to prevent a 3-year-old from handling a gun, from shooting themselves or a beloved family member. It is up to us to separate a young person in crisis from the lethal means of a gun to end their life. This is why in my exam room, I ask families if their guns are locked in the homes of my young patients. House Bill 2510 requires that firearms be stored securely if children or an adolescent could access a gun. This puts into law what we all know is basic safety for homes with children in them. House Bill 2510 requires that parents or an authorized adult supervise minors around firearms. And there are a few exceptions to this requirement. For example, minors with a valid hunting license can use a long gun without supervision for hunting or target shooting after obtaining the permission of their parents. And furthermore, House Bill 2510 allows a parent to authorize a different adult to supervise their child to allow for family hunting trips and other shooting sports outings. The last 2 requirements of the bill are simple. First, firearms must be transferred with a secure storage device when they are being sold or being borrowed. And this transfer requirement aligns with Oregon's existing background check law. If you're required to get a background check to transfer a firearm, then you must transfer that firearm with a secure storage device. And lastly, lost or stolen firearms must be reported to law enforcement within 72 hours after the discovery that the gun has been lost or stolen. Of course, there's an extension to this timeline for circumstances where communications are not available, like being out on a hunting trip outside of cell range. And the reason for this requirement? Stolen guns are much more likely to be used in committing a crime. And while this bill encourages gun owners to track and to report their firearms serial number, it does not require it. I urge you to pass House Bill 2510 to require secure gun storage. This bill will save lives the day it becomes law. Members of the committee, thank you for your attention to this matter. I will now pass it over to my colleague, Representative Graber.
Thank you, Rep. Reynolds. Good afternoon, Chair Prusak, Vice Chairs Hayden and Salinas, and members of the House Committee on Healthcare. For the record, my name is Dacia Graber, and I am proudly the State Representative for House District 35, Tigard in Southwest Portland. The final aspect of the bill I will cover are the penalties. This bill creates no crimes. Gun owners like myself enjoy our Second Amendment rights, but we do have a duty for responsible care, storage, and operation of firearms, just like we do with our vehicles. And that's what House Bill 2510 does. It's a public health approach to a public health crisis. Just like a seatbelt violation or a speeding ticket, the penalty in this bill is a violation. Additionally, this bill establishes that a gun owner must share in the responsibility for civil damages as a result of their carelessness if their unsecured firearm is used to cause harm. This provision is called strict liability. Strict liability does not mean that the gun owner will pay for all the damages. A jury in civil court will determine what share of the damages the gun owner should have based on their level of negligence. There are also notable exceptions to the penalties in this bill. The requirement to supervise minors does not include a violation-only liability. Parents or authorized supervisors will be liable for the damages caused by the minor if they have access to an unsecured firearm or if a minor with permission to use the firearm causes damage outside of permitted activities. Parents should be sure that minors are responsible and in a healthy mental state before giving permission to use a firearm. Another exception is to ensure that gun owners are not responsible for the damages that occur resulting from the theft of a firearm from their home. There is an exception to liability if a firearm is obtained by an unauthorized user as a result of unlawful entry of a dwelling. Finally, please allow me to share why this bill is so important to me. I am a firefighter and a paramedic with over 2 decades of emergency responses under my belt. I will never forget the first time I had to work what we call a trauma code on a child as a result of a gunshot wound. He had the same tousled blonde hair as my son, and had he not been accidentally shot in the face by a friend, maybe I would have seen a resemblance there as well. I will never know because it was my job to try and take what was left and create a viable place to deliver oxygen. We could not save him, and he died while his father howled the most unimaginable sounds from the next room. His friend had found the gun under the bed while they were playing. One child died that day, but countless lives were irreparably changed, including my own. I wish I could tell you the name of every victim and details of every gun death since then, but there have been so many over 2 decades that I cannot. We have before us such a critical and simple step to mitigating the safety risk to our families and community. While so many gun owners, myself included, keep our firearms locked in a safe or other secure storage, we know that more than half do not. It's time to take this small step for our communities, for our children, for the people like me called to fix the impossible. I'm so proud to have the opportunity today to present this truly life-saving, common sense public health legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.